In today's video, I will be giving my thoughts and overall opinion on what I think of Mystic Timbers, the GCI wooden roller coaster located at Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. And let me just start by saying, this coaster is just a plain, fun, and exhilarating ride to experience. It's just so much fun. It's very compact and has lots of great ejector airtime, along with some pretty decent intensity. It pretty much has everything that you expect to see on a good GCI coaster. And today I'm going to be telling you about everything that I love about this coaster, and some things that I would have liked to seen done a little bit better. To start off though, let's get right into the stats. Mystic Timbers stands at a height of 109 feet, has a top speed of 85 kilometers or 53 miles per hour, and a total track length of 3,265 feet. Now at first glance, the stats may seem really unimpressive, but anyone who has ridden this ride, or at the very least has seen a POV of it, knows this is one of those coasters that doesn't need the huge stats to be a great ride. And there are tons of great examples of this. Maverick at Cedar Point, Terran at Phantasialand, Twisted Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia, and Mystic Timbers is no exception. Now let's talk about all the things I love about this coaster by getting into the ride experience. Once getting the all clear and out of here, you're going to start your ride on Mystic Timbers with a small right turn out of the station, followed by a little dip into a half airtime hill, which doesn't actually give any real airtime. It's mainly just there to build excitement. Once you start climbing the lift hill, you'll notice that there is some pre-recorded audio that they play on the lift hill, which most of it I couldn't really make out, but the one part that pretty much everyone can make out is "Don't go into the shed" and "Go back to your roller coaster tycoon" and all of that, which really helps to set the mood a bit and also acts as a little bit of theming, as well as gives you something to listen to on the lift hill while you wait. And once you get to the top of the lift hill, you'll notice that the chain lift actually slows down quite a bit, and I'm not sure exactly the reason for this. I guess it's just to add a little bit of suspense and even more excitement. Also, you'll find that a lot of GCI coasters do this. They'll have that feature where the chain will slow down near the top, but on Mystic Timbers, it's pretty cool because once you get to the top, it does slow down, but it also matches with the audio, so you hear a person over the speakers saying, "Don't go into the shed," and that's exactly when you slow down. So after that, you're going to go into this really nice twisted drop, and if you're in the back seat, you just get dragged through that section. Then you're going to pass over the lift hill, which doesn't give you too much airtime, but right after that, you go into two very nice ejector airtime hills, followed by a nice twisty section as well, which also sends you flying out your seat, and then into an airtime / bank turn, and then you go into this turnaround section through a tunnel, and that's when you start making your way back to the station. After, you'll go into 3 back-to-back ejector airtime hills, which are really great and really send you flying out of your seat. Then you'll go into this nice sharp turn into an ejector airtime hill, followed by the Camelback trick track. And what that actually is, it's an ejector airtime hill, then you go down into another ejector airtime hill, followed by another ejector airtime hill that's slightly curved, into one last ejector airtime hill that leads you right into the brake run. So it's a very interesting name for an element, and it's quite funny, honestly. Then you're going to go into the most hyped up part of Mystic Timbers, if it was 2017. But by now, everyone pretty much knows what's in the shed. And if you went into the shed, like I did, knowing exactly what was in there, and not having extremely high expectations, then you would still enjoy the ride a lot and wouldn't be disappointed by the whole shed part. So anyway, what basically happens is that you'll pull up to the screen of the shed, just back a few feet of it, and you'll sit there for just quite a bit, depending on how long it takes for the train in the station to load and get all the guests out. Then you're gonna hear Man Eater come on one of the speakers, but then all the lights will shut off and you won't be able to see a thing. Anyway, what really happens is that you'll come to a stop for a little bit, and then there's a short animation that plays, and basically what happens during that animation is as you turn into the station, one of 3 creatures will lunge or try to grab you. Between those 3 creatures are a giant snake, a giant bat, and a tree monster, which apparently is the most rare one out of the 3, and I only got it once out of the 5 times that I rode Mystic Timbers. So to me, I thought that it was a pretty cool feature to add at the end of the ride. Instead of just sitting on a boring brake run and having nothing to do, it's a nice little feature to have there, provides some entertainment and probably might scare you depending on who you are. And it also helps the theming as well. Since there isn't really much theming to this coaster, as we all know Cedar Fair, theming is not their specialty. I mean, they themed a wooden roller coaster to itself. So that means when you're going through all the forest section of Mystic Timbers, I guess that kind of counts as theming because it's wood. But besides that, I'm going to share a few more things that I really like about Mystic Timbers. The first thing is I really like the front seat actually. I didn't get the very front seat, but I got about 4 rows to the front, and I actually enjoyed it a little bit better than the back seat, and here's why. Since Mystic Timbers is very compact and all its elements are very short and fast, if you're in the back seat, you really just go over those elements way too quickly in my opinion. So yes, you do get really good airtime and it is a lot more intense in the back, but the front for me, if you want to experience that really good airtime, that's the seat you have to go. Anything that's past the middle, that's where you're going to get all the good airtime. But I know that there's a few people who would much rather prefer the back seat. I know that Taylor from Coaster Studios does. He even said it in his review if you want to go check it out. In my opinion, I just think that the front is the way to go on this coaster. Another really nice feature of this coaster is how when you go down that drop and throughout the whole ride, the whole train shakes. And it's not a rough or bumpy feeling whatsoever. It's kind of like the feeling you get if you've ever ridden Millennium Force. You know what I'm talking about, where the whole train shakes and you really feel it in your feet and in your legs. It's just a very cool feeling and it makes the coaster even more intense and enjoyable for me. Now, as for complaints, there's really not too many for me. The only ones I could really think of is just one, the locker situation, and pretty much almost all of the coasters at Kings Island have this problem. And if you've been to Cedar Point too, you know that they have the exact same situation, and no one wants to pay $2 or more for a locker that's going to last probably like an hour. So what I recommend is that if you're there with your friends or your family that aren't going to ride, then just leave it with them. But if you're not, then one very popular technique is to just find a really nice bush around the area, and then you should be fine, and I'm pretty sure nobody's gonna steal it, and I've never heard of anyone who's lost or had their bag stolen afterwards, so it should be perfectly fine. And the second complaint I have, I really wish that this coaster, as good as it is, was just a bit longer. Now maybe like 500 to 800 feet would have been the perfect length for me. I know that due to its height, you can't really have an amazing coaster that's really long, unless you were to have a launch. But other than that, I think that this coaster is just really good. And for its final score, Mystic Timbers definitely is enthusiast worthy. So that's going to do it for this coaster review. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to leave your thoughts on what you think of Mystic Timbers down in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and also subscribe. As always, I will catch you all next time here at Coaster Nate.